So, listen, I hear you. Everyone does these title lists. You're right. But I gathered some friends, and I wanted to talk about some of the manga titles that we think that people should read if they just got into this hobby or are trying to get somebody else into this hobby. Again, this might not be our favorite list, but these are titles that mean something to us, that we think that anyone, regardless how long they've been reading, would enjoy.
Honestly, most of the time when I try to give out manga recommendations, the first thing I get is, isn't that just for kids? Monster, I don't care how old you are or who you are, it's a series that has so much depth to it that anyone could enjoy. It also paints the world very darkly, so it's not for everybody, but definitely worth checking out.
Hat Atelier. This title to me, right, is you can easily make that jump if someone's into Harry Potter or fantasy adventure series. You can easily make that jump with this manga. I think it's got something that no matter what age the person is, they can find something to enjoy. And plus, I think the magic systems are amazing, and that artwork it's incredible.
The first one is the most important. It is Wotakoi, Love is Hard for Otaku. There's a reason for this. I cannot stress enough. This was the first manga that was ever bought for me because we did the video on your channel where we bought each other manga, and I read this in no time at all and bought the entire series, including an extra edition of the last volume. And I need the Kinokuniya edition, but I don't think I'm ever going to get it. It is not a longer series. It's short. It's sweet. You know, it's got references to all kinds of stuff, which would fly over your head probably if you were just getting an anime or manga. But overall, the story itself is pretty solid and wholesome. So that's, again, Wotakoi. I think all of us agree. Wotakoi is top tier.
Newer series, which if you're about my age, I feel like you'll enjoy more, is Kaiju No. 8. And even though it's a shonen, just does a very good job of incorporating a bunch of older themes, but doing it in a new way. So if you liked Pacific Rim, it's worth checking out. It's also amazing art, and I don't know, I just really love the story.
Haikyu. All right, listen, Haikyu is that, to me, the perfect sports manga. It's got everything that a classic sports underdog tale has, on top of incredible characters, incredible teamwork, just the way that you grow with these characters, and you go through ups and downs, and it has such a arc and trajectory of the story that while it might not break the mold of sports movies, sports anime, sports manga, sports fiction, I think that it executes and checks those boxes so incredibly well. And I mean, come on, who doesn't root for Hinata? You're crazy. If you don't root for the main character by volume 4, I don't know what to tell you. I can't help you. It is legitimately one of my favorite series.
My next one's going to come as a surprise to anyone that watches the Anime Unraveled YouTube channel and listens to the podcast, and that is because I am recommending the manga for JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. So I personally don't like the animation style, and I have said numerous times I would read the manga as opposed to watching the anime. And I think that for me, that is why I would recommend the JoJo's manga for someone getting into manga, because it could be someone that's like, you know what, I want something that is kind of off the wall. Now, would I say skip part 1 and 2? 100%. Well, no, skip part 1. You can start with part 2. But the anime just has not landed with me. I have seen panels from the manga. The artwork in the manga is actually really strong. So I just would rather read JoJo's than watch it. And I think that, for someone that's getting into manga, if you're getting into manga, you probably have been watching anime at that point. So it could be something that you've seen JoJo's and you've been like, you know what? No. You could blast through and get current well, as current as we are in the United States with JoJos, if you decided to just read the manga.
I also am a huge fan of comedy series, so Grand Blue Dreaming, even though it's a seinen, is one of the funniest series I've ever read. Grand Blue Dreaming is basically just going into college and kind of what happens with everyone, I feel like, when they go into college, which is you don't stay on course generally. Like, you might go into college thinking you're going to do something with science, and you end up going a completely different way because you're kind of supposed to discover things. He thinks he's going to go to a college that's kind of pretty far from his hometown, so no one will know who he is. It's a new start, and maybe he'll, like, find a girlfriend finally. Things go very poorly for this man, and it's amazing. Like, if you want to see someone with a downward spiral that starts instantly, Grand Blue Dreaming. It's fantastic.
Silver Spoon. The reason I put Silver Spoon on this list is I think that someone might not be into sports or action or shonen or whatever, shoujo, love stories. Well, this got a little bit of kind of everything. It's more of a slice of life comedy series. And the reason that I would introduce this to somebody, or, you know, that it could be one of their first manga, is you don't really need to know anything about manga, right? You don't need to know about power systems. You don't need to know about tropes. I think the characterization and the story that it tells, while not the most exciting at all times, and I think when you talk about manga, while I love, you know, fantasy and power fantasy and all that things, sometimes it can be a little inaccessible to someone that's not really their thing to do. And it's harder to find grounded series that's not like deep, dark, and depressing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you can find some deep, dark, depressing stuff. But Silver Spoon is such a feel-good, finding yourself, coming to terms with who you are as a person. That's someone that might be predisposed to think, this manga stuff is for children. They will get something out of this manga.
My next one on this list is actually Terra Formars. So, Terra Formars, it gets that sci-fi itch. It's space exploration, sci-fi. Its artwork within the manga itself is all really, really, really strong. But the manga is still ongoing. It's one of those that is written by someone and then drawn by someone else. It is a duo. And this is one of those that does it really well, where it's got one person that writes the story, one person that does the art. And if you have an itch, you want sci-fi, you want, you know, something that's kind of extraterrestrial, Terra Formars scratches that itch for you. It gives you a little bit of, you know, everything. You get off-the-wall powers that make no sense at all, and some nonsensicalness. You get Giga Chad cockroaches that hate people. Overall, the story is very good. Peppers has hated the story from the first volume, but it's so good. I highly recommend it.
Another great series that, honestly, probably one of the ones that really got me into manga, Initial D. And I know what you're saying. It's a car series. I don't like cars. Guess what? I wasn't super into cars, and then I read this, and now I have a mountain of debt. Maybe you shouldn't read this. If you're not into cars, like the way the action is drawn, the immense amounts of drama in it, it's probably one of the greatest series I've ever read. But it's about a high schooler that he doesn't live quite the ordinary life. He's someone that comes from a broken family, so he had to grow up a bit quicker than his classmates, and has actually been working every day since he was in middle school. Of course, no one else knows this because his work is literally doing deliveries at the break of night, going up a mountain to deliver tofu. And by doing so, he's become somewhat of a god at drifting, which plays a big role in the series. But more than just racing, the series deals a lot with character growth and just how friendships and even relationships can break down over time. So definitely worth checking out.
Vinland Saga. I hear you. Yes, very basic choice, Vinland Saga. You're not wrong. But here's the thing. It's basic because it works. I feel like I could get my grandfather to read Vinland Saga, and he would love it. You know what I mean? It's one of those special manga that I think could transcend generations. You know what I mean? I feel like it doesn't really matter what age. Fair, I wouldn't give it to a 7-year-old. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, wouldn't do that. But of a certain age, I think it can be enjoyed from anyone from 16 to 96. And that comes down to just the themes, because that's what I love about manga. That's what I look for in manga. What are the themes? What is it trying to say with its story and characters and artwork? And I think it, out of everything of my list, if you want to get like 10 out of 10s checking boxes, it's this series. I think it executes everything so incredibly perfect. And with the setting that it's chosen, which is like Vikings, and coming to terms with what violence means and what upbringing means and what kind of your history and your genetics or DNA are fighting against what you should be, and coming to terms with the type of person you are becoming, is a theme that is timeless and is executed so well. There's not a manga on this list of mine that I think is the best. I'm not ranking them, you know, but if I was, this one would be number one.
Full Metal Alchemist. There's a reason this is number one on Mal. The anime is great. The manga itself is honestly equally good. It's another thing that's like, you get a little bit more detailed backstory in some parts of the manga than you do the anime. And overall, it's just, Full Metal Alchemist is one of those that I watch the anime, I've read parts of the manga, and I love both equally. So I would recommend it because of a nostalgia feel for Full Metal Alchemist. It's not super long if you get like especially if you get the Full Metal editions. I think there's 17 Full Metal editions. So it's like, it's not a super long thing to sit down. I mean, you could sit down, read one of these in an hour tops. So it's quick, it's easy on the eyes. There's some action. It's Full Metal Alchemist, man.
And the final series that I'm going to recommend, this is one from my youth, good old King of Hell. And the reason I recommend this, it actually reads the regular way, which is kind of messes you up sometimes if you've read a lot of manga, but it's because it's one of the first manga that got translated over. And the art in this is still some of the best art I've ever seen. Like King of Hell, the story is pretty straightforward, but the art carries it drastically. And if you like any kind of martial arts, this is probably one of the best series that you're ever going to find. It essentially is about a guy who was sent to hell, and he just happened to defeat everyone that was in hell. And a few of said demons and things that he defeated eventually escaped. So the literal King of Hell comes to him and is like, hey, can you go to Earth and solve this problem for me? He's like, nah. But somehow he gets forced into it, and you just follow his journey from there on.
A silent voice. The reason I put this on my list is because, honestly, I love this story. I love this story. Which is so funny because in the beginning, I hated this story. I was like, no, thank you. But by the end of it, it comes together and tells a story that I've said multiple times in this video that can resonate with anyone. I think that when you're introducing somebody to manga, right, you can introduce them to a Haikyu. It's got 45 volumes. Big time commitment. There's something to be said, especially in these deluxe editions. There's 2 of them. 2 and you're done. And I definitely want to put something on this list while I think, you know, the story, themes, characters, anyone can enjoy, no matter what age. But also putting something on this list that is a small, enclosed, encapsulated series so you can kind of give them a taste of what manga is, instead of being like, I'm going to introduce you to this thing, and it's got 47 volumes. I don't have time to read 47 volumes. You know, that can be off-putting for someone just getting into this hobby, is the length that you have to pot commit to a series. And I think that if you're going to try to introduce somebody, or you are just now getting into reading manga, there's something to be said of, it's not a lot of money commitment, and it's not a lot of time commitment. And I think you can just enjoy this art form with a very well-told, condensed story. If you get to the end of A Silent Voice and you have felt nothing, you're a robot. I can't help you. That's robotic, and I don't know what to do, you know? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I can't help you there.
One Piece. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, really? Do I really want to start reading 100 volumes of One Piece? You do, and here's why. Because it's just good. There are peaks and valleys of One Piece, but you get to see the evolution of someone as a mangaka and a storyteller over the years, and there's a history, there's a reason why One Piece is still ongoing now, and to be able to actually start from the beginning to see where Oda started and get to where he is now, it can seem overwhelming, but it is something that if you're not doing much and you just want to read something, you could pick up a volume, 1 or 2 volumes of One Piece. You can hit a stride where you're crushing through some stuff. You're going to get to a point where you're like, man, I'm really finding it hard to get through this. Then you get over that hump, and then you're like, man, I'm glad I got over that hump. It is definitely one of those that, in my just opinion, because of the evolution of the mangaka himself from the beginning to current, it's really, really just, it says a lot about how he has started this. He had an idea in his head. He didn't want it to be as long as it was, and then he adapted, and he got to where he is today.
So, what did you think of the list that me and my friends put together? I think these are 15 very, very good titles to start your manga collection or your manga journey with. And if you have any more, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, I wholeheartedly appreciate if you made it to the end of this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And I hope if you're having a bad day, it gets better. If you're having a good day, I hope it becomes fantastic. I'll see you next time.